Hi, I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, and I'd like to welcome you to this video. If you are a CNC user working with a CNC router and you're doing your own design work, which most of us do, and you want to start working from images or bitmaps, then this video is for you. What we're going to be doing in this video is deep diving into the Vectric software, where I'm going to teach you a lot about the bitmap features and bitmap tracing. It can be kind of hard to understand without a good tutorial, so I hope that this video is going to really enlighten you on how to work with bitmaps. What we're going to be doing is taking an image of a 1970s famous race car driver. His name is Jim Champagne. And we're going to extract his signature off the image, and we're going to turn it into a carve just like this. So you're going to learn how to take handwriting and turn it into a carve. What's really cool about that is you can take your kid and have them draw pictures and then carve it out, and you've got something permanent. It's actually a good product that you can create on the CNC router. So this comes by virtue of a guy named Charlie, who sent me an email, said his childhood hero was Jim Champagne, and he wanted to extract the signature. I thought it would be a great video to really dive into bitmaps. So what you're going to be learning here is the powerful tools that Vectric has to crop bitmaps the way you want to, and then all the features about bitmap tracing. Without a good tutorial, it's really hard to understand how all the tracing features work. So by the time you're done here, you're going to understand all about this stuff with the bitmaps. And we're going to work a bit with nodes on a signature, because handwriting can be very complicated to work with. It's a lot of flowing curves, and Vectric doesn't always translate it that well. So I want to show you how to fix that stuff up. And we'll work with Vector Validator, and then we're going to take it over, create a toolpath, and then we are going to carve this out on our Longmill CNC router. So you're going to learn a ton of stuff in this video. So with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the picture that we are going to be working with, and then we're going to get into the Vectric software, and we are going to start working with this image. So let's get going. This is the image that we're going to be working with. This is Charlie's idol, Jimmy Champagne. I'm going to show you how to pull that signature, and I'm going to show you lots of little tricks along the way, and then we're going to clean this puppy up. And it's going to take a little effort when you're dealing with things like this. I'm going to be working in Vectric Desktop. This will work in the Pro and in the Aspire version, and I think some of this will work in the 2D version. What you can't do in the 2D version is V-carving, but you can certainly carve this type of thing out on the signature if you have a small enough bit. So we're going to get into Vectric right here, and we have a job created. This job is 24 by 24 inches by 3/4 of an inch deep. None of this is relevant right now, but that's the way I've got it set up. I'm off top of the material, lower left corner, standard resolution, and we're going to click OK. And the first thing you want to do is bring the bitmap into your image. Now, before I do that, I just want you to look up here at my cursor where it says layer 1. When we select that, this box comes down and it says layer 1. There's one layer. Layers are, I've got a video all about layers, but just suffice it to say layers are where you can put different aspects of your projects onto different sheets that would stack on top of each other. So if you got too much busyness in one area, then you can get it out of the way temporarily. I'll put a link down in the description for that video on layers. If you have not worked with layers, you absolutely want to learn how to work with them, because they will make things a lot faster. So I'm just going to click back out here to close this dialog box, and we're going to import this bitmap. So you go to File, Operations, and select from the top icons of one furthest to the right that says Import Bitmap. It's got a little folder with a little arrow coming out of it. Select that, and the directory will open up. You go to the directory where your image is, and there it is, the one I want, Jimmy Champagne. And there it is. So what we don't want is all this stuff here. We simply want the signature. Now there's a number of ways we can get this signature out of here, and you're going to learn some tricks about how to do this. So what we're going to do is literally just crop this image down to the signature. Now before I do that,
we were looking at this layer section before. Remember, it just said layer 1, but now it's got a second layer, and it's called bitmap layer. So the picture is imported on that layer. If I was to select the little light bulb next to it and turn that light bulb off, the picture goes away. When I click the bulb again, the picture comes back. So we're going to crop this bitmap. Now I clicked off to the side, and you see the picture went to this kind of grayed out looking thing. So the picture is not currently selected. If I click on the picture, it'll get selected, and you know a picture is selected when the full color comes out, and you get the dashed dotted line going around the picture. And for right now, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to click off back to the side, make the picture go away. What we want to do is we're going to start by cropping this handwriting, the signature, out. And what we have to do is create a closed vector around the signature. Now I want to make sure you understand what a closed vector is. I'm going to grab a square, and I'm going to click it, and I'm simply going to come over here and draw a square. And then I'm going to close that. And now I'm going to go grab a line, a polyline, using a polyline tool, and I'm going to just create a line like that, and then I'll hit escape. So we have two things here. We've got this line here, and we've got the square. A closed vector, let me tell you what an open vector is. An open vector is when you have a start point on a line and an end point on a line. So when you start at one end and you just follow on a line, it comes to an end. That's an open vector. Whereas a closed vector, you start at some point and you go around, and there is no end point on a line. You just keep going around. Basically, it's a closed line or series of lines. So that's what a closed vector is, and that's what an open vector is. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete those, and I'm going to hit the delete button after I selected them. And we're going to draw a rectangle around Jim Champlain's name. So I'm going to grab the rectangle feature, and I'm simply going to come up above the number 8, because we're going to keep the number 8, and I'm going to be to the right of the furthest most edge of his signature. So we'll be about right here, and I just made a mistake. I'm going to Control Z, and I'm going to start that again. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and just come on down and cross over his name. Now, if you take a look here, I accidentally chopped some of his name out, and we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is hit the escape button to get out of the draw rectangle mode. And I'm going to come over, and I'm going to select that box while it's highlighted. I'll click it twice, and I'll get these little beads that come up around the corners and on the along the lines. And what we're going to do is going to grab that one bead right here, and I'm going to just drag it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to get a little closer to Jim over here. So I'm going to do the same thing, just drag it in. And now we have everything enclosed in a box. So we have the box selected. Now I'm going to hold the shift button down, and I'm going to select the image. So now we have the box selected. You can see the purple line there, and the image is at full color, so that means it's selected. We're going to go to the Edit Objects area. And the third row down, all the way to the right, is a little square and a circle, rectangle and a circle, and it says crop bitmap. So we're going to select that button and watch what happens. It eliminated everything but what we created the vector around. So what we have done is we have eliminated the stuff that's going to create a lot of noise for Vectric to try to work with, and we've simplified our job. So this is very cool, and now we can trace this out.
Okay, well, that's the very basic when it comes to cropping, but sometimes you really need to get a little more creative with your cropping of images. So I'm going to show you some very cool technique here that you are going to fall in love with and know that you can really get tight in this cropping. Now, one thing I want to say is I apologize for the audio difference between what you're looking at me right now and while I'm in the design software doing it. I didn't realize that I was having that issue until after I recorded everything. So that's just kind of the way it goes. All right, let's get back into this and check out these very cool techniques to crop out images. Let's go.
Let's just say you've got a big spot right here that you don't want. So I'm going to Control Z, and what I'm going to do, you see the rectangle still here in the picture. What I'm going to do is grab a circle, and now I'm going to pretend that there's something right there. I'm just going to wrap that circle around whatever imaginary object we have inside. And then I'm going to hit escape to get out of circle mode, and you can see circle is highlighted. Now we're going to hold the shift button down and hold the rectangle down. And while we're still holding the shift down, we're going to select the image. So now we have a closed vector circle, a closed vector rectangle, and then we have the image. Now if I select that crop bitmap again, watch what happens. So what it did, it chopped out all the outside of that rectangle, kept everything on the inside until it ran it into this next closed vector, and then it started chopping again. Now I'm going to take this a step further. I'm going to Control Z again, and now I'm going to draw a star, which again is a closed vector, and I'm going to put it right in the middle of that circle. And we're going to close out of the star. We're going to hold shift button down, select the circle, the rectangle, and the image, which I accidentally picked first, and I'm going to hit crop bitmap again and watch what happens. So now we have lost the outside image, we've kept Jimmy's name, and now we have lost inside this circle up into the star, and now we have stuff back again. So what Vectric does when it is working with the cropping feature, it'll find the outermost boundary and it'll crop everything out from around it, and it'll keep everything inside that boundary until it comes to another boundary. And once it sees that boundary, it starts to crop again until it comes to another boundary, and then it'll stop cropping. So we can continue on like this ad infinitum. So this is actually a very helpful tool when you start to see what I'm going to be doing now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control Z once to end that cropping. I'm going to Control Z again. You can see the star right there. So I'm going to Control Z to undo the star and Control Z to undo the circle. And now we're back with the rectangle again. So there's some cool things we can do here. Let's just pretend there's a lot of miscellaneous noise around his signature, like Jimmy's sneakers hanging down in here. And we really want to tone that out of this picture, so we are just working with the signature as much as possible. There's a number of things we can do. We can now take our line, a polyline, and we can simply start somewhere on that line. Now notice it popped right to the line there. That's because I have these two little boxes turned on, and those are what they call snaps. And I'm simply going to come over here and then come down here and maybe come up here and over here and back up there, over here, over here, over here, and we'll just come up and meet the line again. And now I'm going to hit escape, and we have now created a line that starts right over here. Let's hit escape. It starts right here and it ends right here, and it touches. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our scissors, and we're going to come up and we're going to just trim out that part of the rectangle. And now I'm going to close that. I'm going to select that line, and I'm going to select the image, and I'm going to crop. And now we've cropped out all this miscellaneous noise that we actually wanted to get rid of to make life a lot easier. And the interesting thing is we can take this line as close to the signature as we want to. So I'm going to do this some more. And instead of using a straight line, I'm going to use the draw curve tool. So I select that, and we'll just come down like this, and maybe come out here, and now we're just kind of working our way right around Jimmy's signature. In this case, I don't have to be as refined, but I can get super tight in there and continue on. Now, you know I've already cropped out some of this picture. Now I'm going to touch there. I've already cropped out a bunch of the picture. Now that I've drawn this line, I'm going to grab my scissors again, and I'm going to cut that part of the rectangle. I'm going to close that. We're going to select that shape that I've drawn again, hold the shift button down, select the cropped bitmap, and crop again. And now we have simplified this even more and taken more noise out. So we can continue to crop over and over and over again as much as we want. So I'm going to go back to the original pictures by just hitting Control Z until everything is back to that rectangle.
Okay, now this is where bitmap cropping gets really interesting. Watch this.
And now I'm simply going to delete the rectangle. And I'm going to go straight to draw curves. And we are simply going to start with that and draw curves all the way around Jimmy's name. And I'm going to go very fast. You can keep this as tight or as loose as you want. And we don't want his sneaker in there. And we are simply going to do the same thing. This is kind of cool. You're going to learn other techniques here. There. So now we've got Jim trimmed out. And let's just check right here, because it looks like I actually touched. So I don't want that to be touching his signature. So what I'm going to do is grab that line, click it, hit node, and that brings up all the nodes. And I'm simply going to grab that little flag and turn it up a little bit, just like that. And what I've done now is just enabled that whole part of his signature to show up. Everything is there. We're good. And so we are good to go. Now, let's just, you already know that I can crop around this. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to select that line, select the picture, and crop. And now we've saved Jimmy's signature in a very funny shape. And we have every aspect about it. I'm going to Control Z. We're going to keep that curve. Let's say there's something else we want to keep in this picture. Let's say we want the Goodyear part of that wheel, but we don't want anything else, but we do want to keep his signature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. We're going to get very creative here. I'm going to grab a circle and I'm going to draw a circle roughly about there that will encompass the Goodyear. And looks like I might have a little problem with that. I'm going to close the circle. I'm going to hit N, and I'm going to see if I can squish the circle down by grabbing those nodes. I can. So I can grab the nodes, I hit N, and I squish that circle down, just like that. And it's not quite what I want, but it's okay. You're getting the drift. All I want is the Goodyear, but I don't want the wheel. So then here's what I'll do, is I'm going to continue on drawing. Now I'm going to use the draw curve. And I'm simply going to come in here, I'm going to touch on that line, and I'm just going to start coming right up like that, right around Goodyear. All the way down until I get around there, and then I'll come back and touch the line. And I'll hit escape, and now we've got this weird line there. And you're going to understand why I'm doing this in just a second. Now I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to cut the bottom of that circle. I'm going to close that, and now what we're going to do is select this line we created. I'm going to hold the shift button down and select the other line around Jimmy. And while I'm holding the shift button down, I'm going to select the image. So now we're going to have two separate things that we're cropping all this picture away from. When I hit the crop, it has kept the Goodyear as well as Jimmy. So you can do this kind of stuff with all kinds of features. So now what we're going to do is grab that part of the image. Now you see Goodyear is part of this image. I can't separate the Goodyear, move it around, and do other things. What I can do, if I wanted to, maybe put Goodyear over his name, we can do this. I'm going to sidestep and show you a little bit of a trick. So what I'm going to do is grab the Goodyear, and I'm going to click it so it's highlighted, right click and move or copy it to a new layer, and we're going to call that new layer Goodyear or GY, and I'm going to say OK. And then if you look up at the layer section, now we've created a new layer, and we have basically copied this whole image to this new layer. And what we're going to do is right now you see layer 1 is turned on because it says layer 1 right up there. I'm going to switch it to the GUI layer by clicking GUI. And you can see GUI is up there now. And then I'm going to turn the layer 1 off that has the original picture. So I'm going to select that light bulb right there, and I've turned it off. So now what we're looking at is simply Goodyear and his name in a separate image. So what we're going to do is select that. I'm going to draw another box, and that box is going to be around Goodyear, and then I'm going to close that. I'm going to hold the shift button down while the box is selected and select the name. And what's going to happen when I crop this, it's going to keep everything inside the box and it's going to get rid of everything on the outside of the box. I click it and it did that. It did not do that because, okay, so I just learned a little, the bitmaps turned on. I'm sorry. So I had the bitmap turned on. That's why we're still looking at it. We have cropped the bitmap. Let's turn these layers off so you see the bitmap layer. So that's what we have in the bitmap layer. I turn that layer off and turn the GUI layer on, and now all we have left is that image. And watch this. I can delete that rectangle, select that image, and we will turn the bitmap layer back. Not yet. We're going to select that image again, and we're going to move it right to there. And now we're going to turn the bitmap layer on. And now we have two Goodyears. I can click it again, and let's just say we wanted to put that over Jimmy's name just like that. And now we have something to work with there. And so you can modify this many, many ways when you're working with bitmap tracing and the cropping. And so I just wanted you to understand all that. Now we got to get into the signature. So what I want to do is I want to eliminate the rest of this. So I'm going to just get rid of the other GUI layer. First of all, we're going to go back to layer 1. We're going to turn it on and we're going to select it so it says layer up here, and then we're going to hover over GUI. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click delete, and it goes away. Now if there was data on that, it would say, do you want to keep the data? And I would say no, I want to trash the data. Okay, so we are back on this. Now we are on layer 1. The bitmap, the Goodyear and Jimmy are on the bitmap layer, as you can see right there. And so I'm going to turn that back on briefly. I'm going to do, well, we're going to create another box around Jimmy because I want to get rid of Goodyear because I don't want it. So I make that box. I close that. Box is selected. I hold shift down. I select the image and then I crop. And now we're down to what we want. That original line that I had right over here is still there. I'm simply going to select it and the box and this line right here, and we're going to delete them because we don't need them anymore. Oops, delete. And now we just have Jimmy's name to work with. Now we can trim this down all day long, but now you understand the cropping feature and how powerful it really is in the Vectric software.
Now you know everything about cropping when it comes to the Vectric software. You know a lot of stuff now. And now we're going to get into bitmap tracing. You're going to learn so much stuff in this section of this video, it's not funny. You'll know exactly how to use all these powerful tools that Vectric has. So let's get into the tracing features of this signature. Come on.
So now we're going to trace Jim's name. So what we need to do is select the image, click it so it bolds up like that, and then we're going to go under Create Vectors, and the bottom icon to the left is Trace Bitmap. It looks like a little folded airplane to me. We select that, and we have a menu that comes up. Now you'll notice we have black and white and color here, and the color is selected. Really, it's a matter of playing with this. This picture is a color picture. However, the color may not work with us since the picture doesn't have a lot of colors in it. It looks like it's got this tan brown kind of color and then spotty all over the place. There's a little dull orange in there, and then there's some gray. So it looks like we have about 3 colors while we're set on color here. Since we have 3 colors, I'm simply going to take this slider and take it from 16 colors, which is only showing 12 because that's all Vector can see in this. And I'm going to knock that down to, let's say, what I want to do is play with it a little bit to see what I can do to get Jimmy to stand out the best I can have it stand out. So I've got 4 colors, and I'm going to select the little checkbox next to the dark one because that's the color of Jimmy. And when I do that, you notice a bunch of red shows up. Actually, not just over Jimmy, but in these little spots here. I'm going to watch this again because I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to uncheck that box, and all these little brown things will turn red. That's all Jimmy's signature. Now there's another grayer one. What happens when I click that? No, it's no good. That's picking up all kinds of background noise. So the reason this is turned red, first of all, is because this little trace color is red right here. You can change the color to whatever color you want. If I want it to be blue, I'll click it to blue. But I'm going to go back to the default, what Vectric does. What this will do now is Vectric is going to trace around the red. Now you see it's very bumpy here, and we're not going to worry about that yet. I just want to show you about this tracing. Now I'm going to set something up, okay, and we're going to come down to preview, and you can see now it has put a bunch of vectors around the images. It's actually drawn lines. If I was to say apply and close, and I turn the bitmap off, come back up there, turn it off, that is what Vectric has just drawn for us. So we have lots of little spots, and we have Jim Champine's signature. And it actually doesn't look too bad, but you can see it's kind of choppy here. It got some weird shapes. This is, whenever you have something like this, you're going to have to do work to it because it's just messy, and it needs some cleanup. And you can probably do much cleaner work if you work in Photoshop, CorelDRAW, Illustrator, or something like that. But we are showing you how to do this just in the Vectric software. So what I'm going to do is I am going to Control Z this, and that's going to get rid of that. Basically, it's going to undo the trace that it just did. I'm going to go back up to layer, and I'm going to turn the bitmap back on, and now I'm going to select the bitmap again and go back into trace. And we're going to switch over to black and white right here. And I'm going to select that, and you can see all of a sudden you almost can't see the signature. So what can we do here? Well, we have this threshold button right here, this threshold slider. We're going to slide that down to eliminate some of that background noise, and now it's starting to look pretty good. Okay, so we're going to go with that for right now, and then I want you to notice something else. With a signature, there are no straight lines, right? Signatures are all curves, and so we want Vectric to put all curves into this as much as possible, and that's what this section is for here, this corner fit. If you have this slid up high, it's going to put lots of corners in this project, and we don't really want lots of corners because that will mean it'll be straight lines. I'll show you what I mean. We're going to click preview, and then we come up close, and you're going to see that this is a straight line. That's a straight line, and that's not natural for a signature. We have lots of straight lines. We got some curves, but straight lines all over the place. We don't really want that. So we're going to Control Z that to undo that. And we're going to change it to corner fit loose and do that again. And what you're going to see is there now is not a straight line where we just had one before. There or there. We do still have a couple of straight lines. There's one there. There's going to be one right here. It's just the way Vectric is seeing it. And now we can use this noise filter. What this will do is this will look at a broader number of pixels, and it has to see at least that many pixels in that color in order to create boundaries. And the reason we want to do that is because we have little spots like this, little noise where it's going to draw around. Now there's not many, there's maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, these little guys right there. But if we took that noise filter up and we previewed again, those things are now gone because they are not taking up enough pixels for Vectric to say, okay, I'm going to play with this. And we are good to go. So there's still a little bit of messiness. This is, you can see this is very jagged. This is not natural for pen strokes. So how do we fix that up? We're going to try to bring the threshold up a little bit, and we're going to preview it again. And that smooths some things out a little bit. We're going to bring the threshold up a little more and preview again. So I think we're going to have to run with that. So we are going to apply that preview and close it. And there we have a signature. Now I'm going to go to turn the bitmap layer off, click it. And there's Jim Shem Pine's signature. But it's a bit of a mess. We've got a lot of jagged lines in here.
Jagged lines in the signature. This is one of the problems when it comes to like translating handwriting. So you're going to learn another tool in the Vectric software that'll help you out immensely to smooth out issues when you need to smooth them out quickly. It's called Curve Fit feature. And you are going to love knowing this little tool because it's going to save you so much time. Let's get into it and I'll show you what I mean.
So we're going to start with the circle around the 8. Actually, it's part of the 8. So we have to grab everything. We're just simply going to select the entire thing so that it all shows up like that. And it's all selected. And then we're going to come over to this little tool called Curve Fit. It's under Edit Objects, third row down, third icon in. It looks like a little sine curve. And we're going to select that. And you see all these little buttons come up. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to force Vectric to smooth these little bumps out right here. And the way we're going to do that is we can tell Vectric to make everything straight lines. It'll be point to point straight line. We can do it in arcs, point to point arcs, or we can do it point to point Bezier curves. Now Bezier curves are the best to use in something like this because they are variable curves. So we have a Bezier curve selected. And we have a tolerance set up here. So right now it's at a 0.006. What your Vectric usually defaults at is 0.01. And so what I want you to do is watch what happens when I select this. When I do preview with a 0.01 tolerance, we click that and it took out a lot of that noise, a ton of that noise. Now what we're going to do is click OK, and then we're going to turn the bitmap on. I'm just going to click outside of the picture and look how much that has cleaned this image up relative to such jagged edges like what you see right there. So we're going to turn that off and take a look. But this came out absolutely awesome. So we're going to stick with that. So we're going to start right here in the middle of the loop on the P. And we're going to come up and we are simply going to grab whatever we can grab right there. And we couldn't grab all of it, so we're going to hold the shift button down and grab the inside there, and we're going to grab these two guys as well, and we're going to do the same thing with the curve fit, and we're going to hold the same tolerances. We're at Bezier curves. We're going to preview, and we have smoothed out a lot of stuff. So we're going to say okay, and now I want you to see we got kind of messy here. This is so we still have to clean stuff up. And then Jim, we're going to fix that too. Now we'll do a little bit of different stuff here. We're going to use the same thing, the curve fit. We're going to change our tolerance. Let's find a really goofy spot. So, oh, there's a goofy spot. Let's bring that tolerance tighter. We're going to say 0.005 and preview. And all of a sudden we've lost a lot of that stuff. We're going to say okay. Oops, I accidentally hit a button. And now Jim's signature looks better, but let's see how this compares to the actual signature. Now the reason we're doing this is because we're working with an image that is grainy. And so we want that signature to be smooth in the carve that we're going to create. And that graininess makes it nice and jagged. So we've got some areas to fix up. It should be pretty quick. Show you a couple quick ways to fix this up. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to, first of all, make sure that these two buttons are selected. These are your snap features. That'll allow a line to snap onto an existing line. Because there's a couple of ways we can fix things like this. Before we go into this little mode, well, I'm going to click this line and hit N for node. And you can see we've got these little nodes here. And these are like transition points that the software is going to use. And we would have to delete, add, modify a node at a time. So like this one here, obviously a pen stroke is going to be fairly smooth right through here, not have this jagged stuff. So we could hover over that node and hit D, and you see we're still kind of screwy. So let's just try to delete that one. We'll delete that one. We'll delete that one. And then we have to stretch that out. I mean, we've got the essence of the signature. Look at these little flags, so you can stretch the flags out. We have the essence of the signature. I'm going to drag that node over. And you can rotate these flags as you need to. Okay, so I said we have the essence of the signature, but think about this. We have to go through each one and delete nodes, add nodes. How do you add a node? You hover over a point and hit I, and it'll insert a node just like that. The other way to do this is to escape from node mode and start drawing your own curves or your own lines as you wish. So I will use the arc command. No, we'll use the draw curve command because I've got this little area right in here that I want to get back. So the signature does not come along this line, it comes down here and goes over that way. So I'm gonna in the draw curve mode, I'm gonna, with the snaps turned on, just click right there, and then I'm just gonna start a little curve. Let's see where that signature goes. So it's going right about there. Okay, I'm gonna hit escape. And now I've drawn a line, and that line is attached to that one. So I'm going to take my scissors and simply trim that. And now we have changed that signature quite a bit. Now we've got this area right through here. So we're going to do the same thing. Now this time we'll do it with an arc. I'm simply going to grab right there and click. And then we'll come down to somewhere down here. Let it snap to the line. And I'll draw that arc. So it just kind of looks natural on that flow. I'm going to close it, trim it. And now we've trimmed that arc, but you can see we got a little boo-boo area right there, so we have to zoom way up and trim that little bit right there. I'm going to close that. You see there's still another little boo-boo area, so let's see what the software does. I'm going to close that, and it fixed it. So we're definitely looking a little better here. This is really the way to fix this kind of stuff up. If you want to fiddle with nodes at a time, then you can. So like we would click this button, this line there, and hit N, and then we're going to have to, which one do we get rid of? Well, looks like this one, this line is not where it needs to be. So we need to drag it out just a little bit. Now you see it didn't move. I tried to drag it just a little bit over. There we go. If you struggle trying to drag a node around, then simply come up here and turn the nodes off right there. And in fact, I will do that. You need them on if you're going to draw lines in here to get them to connect. So just fix that up a little bit. This needs to come out a little bit more so we can take the flag and make it longer, and it's changed that line. Over here, we don't need that node right there. What do we want to do? We don't want this node. We're going to delete that node, and we're going to just drag this out a little bit. And that seems to be more flowing with the signature. We got a funny spot right there, so you got to zoom in and get that node out of there by hovering over the node and hit the D button. And that got rid of the node, and then we're going to straighten out that little curve by dragging that flag around. So we got that part of the signature pretty well fixed up, but this one looks horrible right here. So how are we going to fix it? We're going to draw lines. So I'm simply going to come over to the draw curve, click it, and I'm going to turn my nodes back on right here. So it snaps right to the line, and we're just going to start drawing along that white area there until we snap back into there. And there we are, and I hit the space bar to terminate the line command because it looks like we got another little spot right there we got to work on. So I'm going to just grab somewhere here and simply come across over to here. And I'm going to space again. And now we can grab our scissors and cut that part out, and we can cut that part out. And now we've cleaned up that little corner. Now, looks like we got a goofy area right here. We have a straight line right there. And if I select that and hit node, you can see I got this little black node right there and a black node right there. These are corner nodes. We don't want them. So the way to get rid of it is to hover over the node and hit S. And that just smoothed out that node. And we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to hit S, and it's going to come out screwy, but we're going to fix it. See that? So all we're going to do is shorten that flag up. And we're going to drag the flag down to try to follow along that curve a little bit more of the signature. Same with right over here. And we're going to pull the flag up a little bit. And it's almost a straight line again. It's not quite right. There we go. Now I want you to see what's happening with Jimmy's signature here. He's got a little bump in his signature. He came up and he went up, over, and up again, and then curved back up. So he had a little bit of a, like he got bumped when he was writing his signature. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert nodes. So I'm going to hover over this point and I'm going to hit I. And I just inserted a node and simply just drag that down. And then we are going to shorten that flag up a little bit. And now we're a little bit more consistent. And then this part right here, well, that doesn't look right. So I'm going to just stretch that a little bit just to move that node, and then we'll bring it back. And see how his pen ended? So this is not looking right. So the way to fix that is by stretching your flags. And we're just going to reshape this signature. I'm going to stretch that flag so it's more of a curve. And we've almost got that little hook that he created, but not quite. So we're going to grab the flag, turn it inward, and then we're going to grab the node and turn it inward. So it's taking a little bit of shaping here. And I think that's what we're going to do. Now we've got other areas like here. I don't want black nodes at all in this. I'm going to show you a little trick. So what we're going to do is we've got black nodes up here. We have black nodes over here. We've got a couple black nodes there. While the nodes are all selected, I'm going to come down to the lower left right here and create a window around all those nodes. And you see they'll turn red. And now I'm going to hit the letter S. And what that has done is smoothed out every node on here. So we have no black nodes left. Now it looks like we got a black node right there because that is an arc. Let's see if we can get that way. I don't think we can change that. Hit smooth. Okay, so there's an arc right there. That's the arc that we drew in. We can actually keep that there. And we got another spot right here that looks like it needs a little work because it's not following the natural stroke of the pen. Here's an area just for consideration. This is not part of the pen stroke. The pen actually comes up like that and then comes back down, and then we get that little goofy spot right there with a straight line, it looks like. So I'm going to hit node, and we are simply going to fix that a little bit. And there, and then we're going to fix this up. So I'm going to grab the polyline tool again, or the curve, draw curve. Now I'm going to turn the snaps off for a minute because snaps make it kind of hard to draw these things sometimes. And I'm just going to come up and curve around and then go back in. Now before I touch, I'm going to turn the snap on so it actually grabs the line. And we have that, and then we have down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and follow along this line, just like that. Okay, and escape, and we're going to trim that out. We're going to trim that out from the inside. We're going to trim that out there, And we're going to doctor that up, and we are going to call this a day.
Well, we've worked with this signature about as much as I am going to work with it. You would probably want to work with it a lot more if this was important to you to get it set up right. I would fiddle more with the curve fit feature to get things smoothed out a little bit, but now you know all the little tips and tricks with nodes that you can do, curve fit, and a lot of other things. Now it's time to get into setting up the toolpath and carving this thing, and you're going to find out why we need to use Vector Validator and how to fix errors that you have in your project. So now we're going to switch over to toolpath and get into that part.
Now I'm going to go to toolpath. I'm going to do this in a Vcarve. We're going to select the Vcarve engraving toolpath. Now select that. The bit I'm going to use is going to be a 60-degree V bit. So we're going to select the 60 by a quarter and say OK. And that is all I need to do. We're going to call this Jim. I'm going to calculate. And it says ignoring unsuitable or open vectors. Let's see what happens. So it has missed some. I got some vectors that are open. So we're going to close this. We're going to go back to our drawing by clicking this blue button up here. I'm going to go over to my 2D view, and I'm going to escape. Now you see I got these little arrow lines here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click this little button right here and turn that off. And I want to see where this is broken at. I don't know where it's broken at. So all I'm going to do is just highlight it, and I'm going to come over to this area, edit objects, and I'm going to say join or close with a curve. I'm going to click that a couple times. I'll do the same thing over here. And it's probably because I did some line edits on it, and we should be good with that. I'm going to try the vector validator. Now the vector validator is going to check any crossover points. So I'm going to hit that and say select all. And I got a couple points that aren't right here. So I'm going to zoom way in, and I can see why. There's a line here that's not working right. So I'm going to hit close that. I'm going to select this line, hit N for node, and I'm going to drag this node out. And you can see now what's going on. So I'm going to delete that node. I'm just going to hover over it and hit delete. I'm going to escape node. I'm going to come back out. I'm going to go back to vector validator right here, select that and select all. And there's one other spot right here. It's probably the same thing. Yep, it's a crossover. So we're going to close that. We're going to select that. We're going to go node. I'm going to hover over that node. I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to make sure everything else is okay, which it is. So we're going to escape node mode, hit vector validator again, select all. We're all looking good. I'm going to close that. And that's why I was getting the open vector things. It's because those crossover points. I didn't have to close them. And so we're going to go back to our toolpath. We're going to go back into this and select everything. We double clicked into the toolpath that we had created, and I'm going to calculate, and it looks like it's going to work this time. Now we're going to color it black by going right up here, making sure toolpath color is selected. Click this little drop down and select black, and then we're going to preview the selected toolpath. And that all looks good. So we are ready to go. Now let's just take a close look. We got a couple loose spots in here. Good enough. Again, you'll have to fix things up as you want. So here's how we save the toolpath. We're going to close this. We're going to check this box right here next to the word toolpath. And then we're going to go to save toolpath. This button right here, little floppy disk. Select that. And it really doesn't matter what's selected up here because we only have a single toolpath down at the bottom. Make sure you're using the right post processor for your machine. We're doing this on a Longmill CNC, so the Gerbil inch works just fine. Sometimes I'll use the Bob CNC. We are going to click Save Toolpath. And now it's going to create the toolpath. We're going to hit Save. And so now we're going to go over to gSender.
gSender is the software that actually controls our CNC router. So we have to use that in order to tell our router to carve this thing out. gSender is the software I recommend that you use to control your CNC router. Now, I just want to take a second out. If you find this video is helping you out a lot, learn lots of little tips and tricks about design work, then give me a like and maybe a comment down below of what you've learned so far. And if you're brand new to CNC routers, I got a ton of videos like this. I promise the audio is a lot better in the majority of them. But for this one, I apologize again, but subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll get up to speed with your CNC router a heck of a lot faster. All right, let's get into the gSender software. Get our CNC router working.
Now, gSender is the control software that runs the Longmill CNC. And you should download the gSender software. It is the most current control software that's out there. Now you can see the image that I drew before. Let's see if we can get to the right orientation on that. There, I carved this out before. I'm going to show you how fast a 120-degree V-bit is, why you want to get one, but that's for a different time. Right now, we're simply going to hit the load button. Now, before I do that, you want to make sure you're connected. Right now, I'm not connected, okay, because nothing's highlighted over here. Everything's gray. So up here in this area, you select connect to machine, and when you hover over it, this drop down comes down, and you come down and it turns into this dark blue purple kind of color. Select it, and the machine is now connected, and we have an alarm. All we have to do is reset that alarm, and now we're going to come down and load our project file. And there it is, Jim. That's the signature, and it's loading up, and there's Jim, and we are really ready to go after we set up our machine. So I'm not going to show you how to set up the 0 points here. Just know that I'm going to set up in the lower left corner of my project piece, and so my 0, 0, XY 0 will be right here, and my Z0 will be at the top. And we are simply, once that's set up, we're going to start the machine by hitting start. So I'm going to set up the machine, and then we're going to just run it. It'll run very quickly, by the way. And we've got the project on the Longmill CNC router now, and I'm using a scrap piece of wood from a job I did a couple days ago, and the wood is white. I painted it white, and you see there's this blue covering on it. Now that's masking. The masking is called ORAMASK 813, and it's the best stuff you can possibly use to mask off your projects. The reason is now I'll be able to paint the signature without worrying about the underlying color. There's links down below for all this stuff. I totally recommend the ORAMASK. It's like the best stuff for this. Anyway, you see we're doing the number 8. And it's about done. And it's just so cool to watch this kind of stuff start to come to life as you're carving or after you've done all your design. And the router is literally writing the words. So in a moment I sped the video up, and I think I sped it up a little too much to really get the full gist of it, but it's just so cool to watch when it starts doing this. It's like the router is actually doing writing, and it is so cool to watch. And now we get the Jim done, and there's the project, Jim Champagne. So the next thing was to spray paint it, and you see I've spray painted it black here. I forgot to video that spray painting, but here's what the ORAMASK does. As you peel it away, and here comes the signature. Now it takes a moment. You got to take a little bit to peel it away, but look how cool this turns out. So if you're going to do carves like this, or any kind of carve, you definitely want to have ORAMASK in your arsenal. Again, like I said, there's a link down below. You can get it off of Amazon or Tools Today. I got links for all that. Very cool. So you can have writing with you and your loved one or your kids. But now you know how to do this.
Now you understand bitmaps and how to work with them in ways that most people don't, and you know how to do bitmap tracing in a lot of different ways. And you've learned a lot of other tools in the Vectric software. So, if you feel like this was helpful to you, of course, give me a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear a comment from you down below if I can hear comments. And also, if you feel like I've helped you get to the next level, I'd love for you to buy me a cup of coffee. Down below in the description is a link where you can contribute to what I do here. And everything I've talked about or resources that will guide you to the next level, down below in the description, there's links to videos and miscellaneous things that you need to do your design work and run on the CNC router. I hope this video has helped you out, taking you to the next level. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft.